In this podcast episode, Gary Brecka sits down with Dr. Andy Galpin, an esteemed expert in human performance, exercise science, and nutrition, to discuss the complex world of recovery modalities, the importance of understanding performance anchors and hidden stressors, and the nuanced application of popular biohacking tools. Dr. Galpin opens by cautioning against the tendency many have to constantly shift from one biohack or recovery modality to another without settling or allowing the body's physiology to adapt properly. He refers to this as biohacking hopping, where frequent and multiple interventions confuse the body's homeostatic responses. Instead, he recommends fewer, more targeted interventions based on specific problems or performance anchors, the primary factors limiting recovery or performance in an individual's life. These anchors could be obvious stressors such as overtraining or poor nutrition, but often they are hidden stressors that the person cannot easily see or feel, but that accumulate in their overall allostatic load, or total stress burden. The key to efficient recovery, Dr. Galpin argues, lies in identifying these anchors precisely, choosing modalities that address them, and testing their impact methodically rather than chasing every new trend or gadget. This approach guarantees better, more sustainable results with less risk of physiological confusion or overload. He stresses the importance of realistic expectations and honest self-assessment about what works personally rather than blindly following hype. Cold plunging, labeled humorously by Gary as his drug of choice, is discussed extensively. Dr. Galpin explains that while cold plunging induces a powerful sympathetic nervous system response, marked by immediate increases in ventilation and adrenaline, it should be clearly understood that it is a hormetic stressor, a controlled stress that triggers adaptive mechanisms in the body. He emphasizes that cold plunging has legitimate uses, such as a morning wake-up ritual or improving alertness throughout the day, but also significant caveats. For example, it's generally contraindicated immediately after weight training when muscle growth is the goal, because cold exposure might blunt hypertrophic signaling. Interestingly, the temperature and duration of cold plunges have evolved over time. You don't need to submerge in freezing ice water for extended periods, and warmer temperatures near 50 to 60 degrees Fahrenheit for moderate durations can still be effective. Dr. Galpin also advises attention to individual variability, noting that about 15 to 20% of people might experience negative effects like impaired sleep due to excessive sympathetic activation following a cold plunge. Therefore, timing, temperature, and personal response should all be carefully managed. Overall, cold plunging is useful but must be applied with clear intent and understanding of its mechanisms. Moving to heat therapy, Dr. Galpin lauds sauna use for its well-documented health benefits, particularly cardiovascular longevity and detoxification. He shares personal anecdotes about sauna aiding in heavy metal detoxification and views it as a potent tool for recovery and longevity. Importantly, he and Gary both emphasize that sauna and heat exposure are not substitutes for exercise. Saunas simulate some of the physiological stresses of exercise by increasing circulation and heat shock proteins, but they do not replace the myriad benefits of physical activity. For athletes and active individuals, sauna can be a valuable adjunct, especially on days when training is limited by travel, fatigue, or soreness. There is emerging research showing sauna use post-exercise may enhance muscle hypertrophy and endurance adaptations through mechanisms like increased blood flow, waste clearance, and nutrient delivery. Heat exposure via hot water immersion can provide similar benefits due to water's high heat transfer capacity and hydrostatic pressure, which can aid recovery by mechanically promoting circulation. Red light therapy, specifically full-body photobiomodulation in beds rather than localized panels or facial masks, is an area where Dr. Galpin has notably revised his stance over recent years. Initially skeptical, he now recognizes that credible emerging evidence supports red light therapy's role in recovery and cellular health, though it remains a tertiary modality. He stresses the need for realistic expectations, appropriate use, and ensuring that more critical health factors like sleep and nutrition are addressed first. Positioning red light therapy properly as an adjunct allows users and coaches to experiment with it without mistaking it for a primary solution. Like other recovery tools, its effectiveness depends on the specific stressors or deficits being targeted. Dr. Galpin outlines a systematic, data-driven approach to recovery and performance through the 3 I's framework: investigate, interpret, and intervene. This means first carefully measuring and understanding key variables based on one's goals and physiology, then interpreting those data carefully in context: age, sex, lifestyle, stress, travel, etc., and only then applying targeted interventions. He offers sleep as an example, highlighting the complexity of sleep variables like architecture, duration, and subjective feelings of rest. Many people chase numbers without understanding what is appropriate or even measurable with their devices. Thus, before tinkering blindly, accurate assessment and meaningful interpretation must guide the choice of strategies. The discussion turns philosophical and psychological when Dr. Galpin reflects on what keeps elite athletes at the top of their game over extended careers. Drawing on a vivid story from Super Bowl-winning wide receiver Billy Davis, he describes the intense hyper-awareness and singular focus athletes feel during peak moments, a state so compelling that they chase it repeatedly at great personal cost. Yet, this obsession can be a double-edged sword. While it fuels excellence and endurance, it often isolates athletes, limiting identity and purpose outside their sport. Many face depression and difficulty transitioning to life post-retirement because their entire existence was consumed by their athletic pursuit. To mitigate this, Dr. Galpin's programs encourage athletes to develop outside interests and hobbies early in their careers, fostering a more balanced identity and aiding long-term psychological health. Turning to nutrition and common practices like intermittent fasting, Dr. Galpin shares findings from recent research conducted in his lab on fasted versus fed training. The studies show both approaches can lead to strength and muscle gain when calories are sufficient, though feeding around workouts often yields somewhat better strength improvements due to higher workout volumes. Fasted training can yield leaner body composition, but may cause fatigue or reduce total training volume, especially over longer periods. The individual's response and preferences should guide their approach rather than dogma. For endurance athletes with very high training volumes, pre-exercise feeding appears advantageous. Addressing concerns specific to women, Dr. Galpin warns about relative energy deficiency in sport, RED-S, a condition aggravated by excessively narrow feeding windows combined with high exercise loads, commonly resulting in hormonal disruption, sleep disturbances, mood issues, and impaired recovery. He promotes measured calorie regulation, periodic diet refeeds, especially of carbohydrates, and careful modulation of high-intensity exercise volume to prevent this harmful cycle. The mantra is to restore health before focusing on fat loss, as sustainable weight management requires a stable physiological foundation. When it comes to supplementation, Dr. Galpin underscores that no supplement can overcome poor foundational habits like diet, sleep, and training. Supplements rank lower in priority but can be useful adjuncts when individualized through biomarker testing and performance goals. Creatine stands out as one supplement with extensive evidence for benefits well beyond muscle strength, including cognitive function, bone health, and recovery. Dr. Galpin favors creatine monohydrate, especially certified CreaPure, for purity and dosing accuracy. Loading phases are optional, and maintenance doses should scale with body mass, with even high doses shown to be safe in long-term studies. Timing is flexible, and creatine may have mild benefits even after sleep deprivation, positioning it as a low-risk, high-upside biohack. Concluding the podcast, Dr. Galpin reflects on the meaning of being an ultimate human, defining it as the ability to achieve what you want and avoid what you don't, whether that relates to physical appearance, performance, emotional stability, or leadership. He highlights that ultimate performance is subjective and must be aligned with personal goals rather than conforming to external expectations. True mastery is about autonomy and living deliberately with clear intent.